I am Eric Newell. I am the CEO and founder of Stone Ridge Software. I come from a technology background, having spent 13 years at Microsoft before starting Stone Ridge Software back in 2012. But I also come from Western Minnesota, and in Western Minnesota, there's agriculture everywhere. All of my in-laws are farmers, so agriculture is very important to our way of life and this area of the world. And there's such a great opportunity to create efficiency in this whole supply chain of agriculture, which can provide more and more food and more resources to the world. So very passionate about that, very passionate about the opportunity to try to help businesses take advantage of the technology that's out there. So if any of you have heard me speak before, you know that I love to tell stories. And so today is no different. So I'm going to tell a little story that's a little more related to my family and relatives, and then we'll talk about how that change has affected the world over the past 50 to 80 years, and then we'll talk more about what changes are happening today in the world, and we'll go from there. So I look forward to the conversation. So in the beginning of my story starts in my mom's hometown. So my mom grew up, my grandparents lived throughout as I was growing up in the town of Gwinner, North Dakota. Gwinner, North Dakota, if you look at it from an aerial map, looks like this. And you'll see houses in the south part of town. Then you'll see this big area in the northern part of town. So that's actually what we're going to talk a little bit more about. We also see some of my relatives' family farms out in the distance around the Gwinner, North Dakota area. But the reason why we're talking about Gwinner, North Dakota today is because it is the headquarters or the original founding location of the Bobcat. So the skid steer loader got really going in Gwinner, North Dakota. It's a chance to talk about one of the big innovations in agriculture that happened years ago and what this means and how these trends have continued on and where they're going from here. So part of the reason why I want to talk about this is the Bobcat or the Melro company was founded by my great grandfather's brother. So his name was Ed Melro, and he was a tinkerer. He loved to do stuff. So he grew up, his farm, or our Melro kind of historical farm, is just on the southwest side of Gwinner, North Dakota there. And so he and my great grandpa grew up out there farming in that space. And whenever Ed saw a problem, rather than going out and trying to buy something, he would try to figure out how he could make it work. So he was constantly in his shop tinkering, constantly building different things, welding things together, trying to make stuff work. That's just the kind of guy he was. And one of the things that he ended up inventing then is the first windrow pickup, so for combines, so kind of forcing some of the grain into the teeth there and being able to take that into the combine. So that was his first great invention that kind of got things started. And so in 1947, he officially got started with this Melro manufacturing company. So that all started in Gwinner. As that started to pick up some steam, he opened a manufacturing facility in Gwinner as well today, and that's the same land where the Bobcat plant is now. So after Ed got the business going, it was doing pretty well, but it really took off once we had a chance to involve the Keller brothers. So the Keller brothers grew up in Rothsay, Minnesota. So I grew up in Fergus Falls, Minnesota, which is about 12 miles from Rothsay, and lived for most of my life in Barnesville, Minnesota, on the other side of Rothsay. But in Rothsay, Minnesota, these two brothers who went off to World War II came back. They were machinists. They grew up around machines, and they got approached, and so they had a business called Keller Brothers Welding or Keller Brothers Machinery. And a local turkey farmer, a guy named Eddie Velo, came in and said he needed something to be able to clean his stalls. And it needed to be able to be small enough that he could kind of keep it within the barn posts. But he was taking all this time to clean the hay up from his stalls, and he wanted to be able to find a way to do it more quickly. So they went to work and they started a number of different prototypes. and they ended up coming up with the first generation of the skid steer loader. So this was the first time anyone had created something like this. There's a great video about it, which I can post in the chat here afterwards too, if anyone wants to look at like how they got it started, some of the different gears and chains and things like that that they used on the original prototype. But they were the ones who invented it. They brought it to a Minneapolis conference and they were starting to pick up a little interest in it. And at that Minneapolis conference, they ran into Les Melrose. So Les is Ed's son. So Les is my great uncle. And he was really excited about it. Ed had passed away in 1955. So Les was running the business at that time. And he saw this skid steer loader and said, boy, that's going to have a lot of application on our farm and many farms around. So they agreed to a deal in September of 1958, and the Kellers became employees of the Melrose Manufacturing Company, and they got royalties for any Bobcats that were sold. And then they partnered with a firm in Minneapolis who actually came up with the name Bobcat, and what a great name that turned out to be. And that's how the deal came together. So as they started getting this skid steer loader concept out there, it really started picking up steam all across agriculture usage. It's used all over for landscaping, all sorts of different ways. A Bobcat is a very useful thing to have. So if we come back to Gwinner, so here's the plant in Gwinner, a little zoomed in version there in the bottom right of Gwinner and the size of the plant, and there's the front of the plant today too. I took a few tours of it when I was growing up, which is always fun to see. My grandpa had a grocery store that was about 2 blocks west of the plant, so that was what kept them busy, and actually where my mom lived when she was growing up. So, and then my family's been involved in it. My grandpa's brother was the CEO actually in the late 60s and 70s. They ultimately decided to sell it to Ingersoll Rand, and then since then it's been sold to a company in Korea called Doosan. But they are still producing Bobcats in that same land where Ed Melrose started the plant, and the same place where the Keller brothers kept iterating to perfect the skid steer loader. And the cool thing about it is Bobcat is still the top brand in the skid steer market. They sell roughly over 5,000 new units every year. And it's just incredibly common on farms because it can help in so many ways. It can help. These are just some of the attachments that come with it. And I've seen most of these in action over the years. It's an incredibly versatile tool. So giving you a background on one of the innovations that really helped change agriculture back in the late 50s, 60s, 70s, and even still today. So before we go on to new innovation and how that's changing the world, first I wanted to ask everyone is how many people have used a Bobcat? I would love to say that I own a Bobcat, but I don't actually own a Bobcat. I have used one before. I certainly need more practice with it because it's pulling out. It turns out the last few years they've made the controls a little easier to use, but when I used it, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago, I struggled with it a little bit. But super versatile machines. Would be fun to have one. All right, so now we've talked a little bit about how the Bobcat has changed agriculture in the past. Now let's think about where else are we seeing some more autonomy in agriculture, because there's a lot of it going. So over the past 10, 15, 20 years, you've seen a lot of increase in capability in the agriculture space. So, of course, self-driving or assisted driving tractors are becoming more and more popular. You're certainly starting to see some that are totally autonomous, but you also have been having assisted combine usage for many years as well too. The automatic or the spraying of fields from drones. So Keith Van Gasser, who works with us here on the leverage side, his son owns a company. That's what they do is they go and spray fields with drones. So that's a very new way of being able to use it more efficiently and certainly keep people from having to go on spray planes up and up above fields, which is a great thing. And you're starting to see even more things. This is an example of a company called Farm Droid, which is a startup that's working on robotics, where they have a robot that will actually go from everywhere from actually planting seeds to being able to weed the field, spray the field, and of course it's solar powered, so it can work 24/7 and doesn't use any fuel in the space. So you're seeing a lot of autonomy happening in agriculture as technology is allowing for more of this capability. But we are in the business of technology in the back office, so let's talk a little bit more about what some of the things that are happening in the back office and what you can take advantage of today. So there's a lot going on here. So I'll first start by talking about just some of the things that are happening on a pure like ERP side of the house. So ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning, your accounting platform. In agriculture, a lot of people talk about a CTRM platform or a WMS or the Dynamics 365 tool can do all of those things all in one package. So let's talk a little bit about what some of the things that we're seeing in that space. So one of the biggest opportunities to just get some value and some efficiency in your operation is to start with AP automation. So AP automation is not a new concept. People have been doing accounts payable, OCR scanning for many years. But with the advent of AI, now it is so much easier to do than it was in the past. So you can take invoices that are emailed to a shared mailbox, scan them in, enter that, it'll automatically scan it in, it'll automatically enter the payable in your ERP system. It will send an approval through Teams or through email to the right approver to approve that, and then it will, once it's approved, it'll actually post the transaction into your system. So you don't have to do any data entry. Approval is really the only touch. So that's available now. We actually implemented that in our business here earlier this month. So that's something that you could take advantage of right away to create some efficiency in your business. Microsoft also has a tool called the Finance Agent, and that can do things like bank and month-end reconciliation. So you can connect your banks to your transaction list, reconcile all your transactions, and it'll even recommend ones that if they don't match up, here's what the likely transaction is that fits the need. Collections automation is a great opportunity to create efficiency as well too. So if you've got people that aren't paying you, you can have it automatically send out emails to those folks if they are 10 days past due, 20 days, 30 days, whatever threshold you said, and then you can increase how angry you want to be in that email based on how many days late they are in the collections. But you can do that all automatically now using some of the power of AI. And then one of the tools that a lot of our ag clients are using are tools around automated replenishment. So on the purchasing side of it, you can now set thresholds by which you want to have that to get more product. So whether that's seed, feed, chemical, just crates and things that you have around your warehouse, you can set thresholds there where you need to place an automatic reorder based on where you are. So it can look for that, and then you can actually have it send emails to the vendors or send an EDI request to the vendor to replace and get the right quantity automatically without having to run over into the warehouse, looking at how much you have, taking the time to write it on a piece of paper, walk back to your desk, put in the order. All of those things now you can do with some AI capability by being able to replenish whatever your product is on the shop floor. So those are just a couple ideas of what you can do today. I'm curious, is anyone using AI or any of these types of tools in the back office today? Again, AP automation's been around for a while. If you are using any of these things, drop a note in the chat and let us know what you're using today. Be great to hear. All right, we've got a few people using it. That's exciting to see. So now let's talk a little bit more about some things that are specific to agriculture and talk about like how you can create some kind of automation in your space, even today, using some of the tools that are out there. So there's quite a few use cases in agriculture that we've seen with our clients. and that you can do today to get you more efficient in your operation. And there's a lot more ideas than this too. This is just really a way to get you started. So one of the things that we've seen with a lot of our both our ag processors and our ag retailers is scale systems. So you have lots of different locations, a lot of different scale systems. So for most of the time when we do a project, we set up a dedicated import with a scale system if you're using One-Way or CompuWay or some homegrown system. If you're using one of the more standard tools like One-Way or CompuWay, we probably have an integration built to it. But a lot of people also have other scale systems that might be homegrown. And there's not really a great way to get those scale tickets back into your ERP system. So one of the things that you could do using AI is you can actually set up a folder and you can say, all right, scale system, put all the scale tickets that you've recorded into a text file or a CSV file or Excel, put it in this folder. And then you can actually set up AI. So there's a new tool that Microsoft has called Microsoft Scout, which can run automated tasks. It can actually go and look in that folder. It can grab that information and then it can actually send it right to your ERP. So if you're using the Microsoft Dynamics ERP, you can actually have those scale tickets get imported directly without obviously you got to set it up, but this is configuration setup. This isn't programming setup. And you can have it import into your system. You can tell it to send an email to me if something fails on the import, things like that. All of that can be done just by giving it human commands now. So there's this new capability within the Dynamics platform called a Model Context Protocol, or MCP, and that's basically just an API that you can use to be able to speak to your Dynamics accounting system. Pretty cool stuff. So another thing that Leverage has been working on, and you'll hear more from John Mellon coming up next, but scanning bills of lading. So you're out in the field or you're driving truck, you go drop something off, you get a bill of lading from one of your vendors to indicate that what you've delivered to it. And now you got to take that and you got to put that back in the truck, drive back, enter it into the system afterwards. So what if you could just take a picture of it with your phone and have that automatically go into your system? So that's the idea behind scanning bills of lading is you can now take that out into the field just like you would do with AP automation, where it can do a OCR type scan of that document where you're out in the field, and you can then bring that right back into your ERP system. So you don't have to rekey everything in over and over again. So this is a great way that saves significant time, and it saves significant space on the dashboard of your truck as well too, since you've seen a lot of people with a lot of paper on the dashboard of their truck. And then the last one, which I'll go into a little bit, is just thinking about how you can use AI to actually look at some of the bids that are out there. In a competitive market today, you want to be able to get as much business as you can if you're an ag retailer. So I'm actually going to show it to you, something that I worked on that from a farmer perspective, but the same kind of concept would work from an ag retailer perspective. So the use case that I gave AI is basically I said, I live in Barnesville, Minnesota. I have a load of soybeans. I want to find out where the best deal is. And I'd like to build a recurring task that checks the websites of all the ag cooperatives in western Minnesota every day at 11 a.m. to see what the current cash basis is versus the Chicago Board of Trade price for soybeans. I want to find the best deal, and I also want you to factor in fuel costs, right? If the best deal is 400 miles away, that's probably not where I want to go. So I gave it a list of the sites of the cooperatives around the area and asked it to look at the cash bid price that's on everybody's website and tell me where should I go. So based on the analysis that it did, it said, you should go to Dilworth, Minnesota to Maple River Grain and Agronomy. They've got a net bushel price of $10.61. So that's going to be the best deal for me. So again, now I can have this run every day. So if I'm a farmer and I'm trying to maximize my price, I can have it I can get an update every day. I can send me a text with this information every day. All of this stuff can be done. This literally took me 15 minutes to do, and I'm not a developer. So that's how easy it can be. It can be done if you know the right tools and you know how to ask the questions. But really, the question I asked is basically what I put up there. I included links to different websites that I didn't want to bore you with in there, but that's really all I did to make this work. And then now thinking with as an ag retailer, so how would we want to use this? I think this is a great opportunity to be able to set basis based on what's going on around your area. So if you can take all your neighboring retailer or ethanol plants or whatever your competition is in your area, grab all their websites and compare their basis. So you're all operating off of the Board of Trade numbers. So what's the basis number from some of the different cooperatives or ethanol plants in your area? And then you can make a decision, right? If you want more grain, if you want to fulfill more loads, you can set your basis lower. On the other hand, if you've got all the grain you need and you want to turn some away, you can set some higher, or you just want to try to make more margin because you feel like you can. You can understand what all is going on in your area and change your basis to be higher than your neighbors. So it's, again, like having perfect information about what's going on in your area will allow you to be able to capitalize on this. So again, just one way that you could set up a routine, just like on the farmer side, on the ag retail side, you could set up this routine to be able to find those basis numbers and be able to price to where it best fits your business needs. So with that, last poll of the day, but is anyone using AI in their agriculture operations, back office style operations today? If so, how are you using it? Drop those ideas in the chat. Again, we'd love to hear more of these ideas. We'd love to help build some of these solutions as well too. If you're interested in saying, hey, I've got this idea, I just don't know how to do it, we're here to help you with that. So we are a Microsoft partner, a proud Microsoft partner, actually one of the top 10 Microsoft partners in the country. And we are big fans of some of the AI capability inside of Microsoft. So there's several different tools you can get into. Happy to talk about this to anyone who wants a deeper dive on it, but there's a free version of Copilot where you can search the web and get some great answers, do some of the things like I was talking about and getting bids from neighboring cooperatives. Then you have a Copilot chat where you can actually search all of your internal information. So anything you've got in Word, Excel, Outlook, Teams, things like that. It can create decks for you. It can do a ton of, it's amazing at Excel. So if you do a lot of things in Excel, you can take some of that analysis and get summaries based on that. And then you've got more advanced capabilities that can actually go out and do some thinking for you. There's something called Copilot Cowork and a new tool called Scout, which can run automation on your machine as well too. And then you can actually build what's called agents. So agents is a purpose-built solution using AI to be able to create automation in your business. So you can write like an AP automation agent or things like that that have this purpose-built that you can function that you can get everybody in your business to use. And then there's also more things you can do if you've got developers as well to build really truly enterprise capable solutions using the power of AI. And all of this stuff is available in the Microsoft Dynamics products as well too. So if you're a larger company like an ag retailer, ag cooperative, ag processor, you'd want to look at the Dynamics 365 finance and supply chain platform. If you're a smaller company like seed production, farm, things like that, you'd want to look at the Dynamics 365 Business Central solution. And then there's great capability as well in CRM that Jesse will talk about here in a little bit as well. So this is a lot of great stuff, Eric. How do I get started? What do I do next? First, if you haven't gotten familiar with AI and Copilot, I would recommend you start using it. Again, you can get into AI however you want to do it. If that means going out to ChatGPT or Claude or whatever solution that you want to get started at, it does take some time to understand how to write prompts and get good results out of it. So I encourage you to do that. We have something called the Copilot Flight Plan, which if you want to employ the Microsoft Copilot solution, we'll help you get started on that. Make sure your security is set up right so you're not letting information go out of your system. And we'll kind of guide you through the setup process. So we're happy to help you with that if you're getting started with AI today. And then if you are looking at creating an automation platform in your business and having something that will work for the next 20 to 50 years in your business, reach out to us. Let's talk about an ERP or CRM solution that can help you. And then we can do all sorts of fun stuff with AI and automation on top of that.